Evening, freaks. I am dropping in unexpectedly, unplanned, not the way I thought things were going to go, but I promised that I would show up for a live every day of this process, Tuesday through Saturday, while we're going through this Aries Point journey together. And I actually had put together a whole video. I pre-recorded. I wanted to have a healing session for you all tonight and put together a session that, involved Reiki and all kinds of goodies, all kinds of goodies. It was to align with the beauty path. And it was really wild. I had this very unexpected thing happen that I'm a little like tripped out by, actually. I was recording and I got through the whole grounding process. I got us all nice and grounded out and was clearing out some shadow energy, just getting us prepared to do the work that was going to come in. And right after I cleared out the shadow energy, it just stopped. It just completely stopped. The feed stopped, and then it started replaying what I had recorded so far. It's very strange. I've never had that happen, and I've been working with StreamYard for a hot minute now. And it got even more curious when I noticed what time was on the video. The video ended at exactly 11:11. And so it was like a huge moment of synchronicity. And I brought in all of these angelic elements, and I was bringing in fairy and bringing in all these different flower allies that came through that want us to work with them. But it got cut off at this pivotal point. And there's something about that. I don't know what that is. I don't know why it got cut off at that point. I don't even know at what point it got cut off. So I'm going to have to go back and watch that recording and see, because there's something significant there. And I'm sure I'll figure out what that is. But I'm going to have to bring it in next week. And maybe there's something more that needs to come in before I bring this piece in, or maybe what I was putting together was a bit of a ritual that is meant to be brought in the last week. All I know is there's something interesting with timing going on here. And I wanted to make sure that I dropped in and I kept to my word to show up daily for you and to be here to answer questions and all that good stuff. But it is quite late. It's quite late. At least it's quite late over here. It's almost 12:30 at night. And yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good with all the work that we've been doing. I'm also in a place where I really feel like I'm ready to have my couple of days to just sink in and rest and relax. And so maybe that was what it was all about, why the interruption happened the way it did. Um, Maybe I'm just meant to just chill out tonight. I don't know. Hello, I see somebody's here. But I did want to show up. So it looks like that session that I had planned, I'm going to have to bring it in next week, or I'm going to have to bring it in another time. And hi, how are you? Oh, awesome. Thank you. I'm so excited. I loved everything you gave me. It was wonderful. I was just explaining that I'm here showing up live because I promised to, right? I promised to show up live Tuesday through Saturday, while we're going through this experience together. And I did a pre-record. I wanted to pre-record, a whole like healing session, bringing in energy work, bringing in some candle work, and also bringing in, some angel love, bringing in some fairy love. We were getting into a little glamour magic, and I wanted to pre-record it because, doing that kind of work, it can be distracting when you have, you know, the chat going, and so I wanted to pre-record it so I could drop in with you all on live chat and just sink into the experience with all of you. But all of a sudden, in the middle of recording, it totally shut off and it started playing back what I'd recorded. I've never had that happen with StreamYard, like ever, ever, ever. And it was really weird because it was after I just called in like all this angelic energy and called in the Fae, and it just completed the whole grounding. And then I noticed it was like, whoa, it shut off. And when I looked at the time on the video that it shut off at, it shut off at 11:11. So it's all right. There's some kind of synchronicity here, so I don't know what that's about, but I have a feeling that it's like, no, 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 this is not complete yet. But it's really interesting because there's certain flower flower allies that came in, and it's interesting because it's now like these flowers are wanting to introduce themselves more. And it seems like that makes sense. I mean, we did have that piece come in, right, about the passion flower and engaging in activating the senses as a gateway to pleasure, as a gateway to also finding the way through to beauty within and without. And so I had all these flower allies that came in, and it's really interesting what's associated with each of the flower allies. But of course, Rose was, forefront. Also, cherry blossom, okay. And I had white poplar come in, which is flowering tree. It's interesting too because cherry blossom is also from a tree, so it's almost like flowering tree medicine coming in. So I'm not quite sure what that's about. I'll have to find out, right? We'll all have to find out together. But I felt like I didn't want to, just bypass doing the live. I thought I'm gonna drop in and maybe just check in with everybody and see how they're doing, share what happened, and let you all know I got like something interesting happening with timing here, something interesting happening with synchronicity, and it involves something about this ritual that I was going to put together that I was going to like lead us through tonight, and is going to be just receiving to align with the beauty path. But I think maybe there's other pieces that need to come in. Oh, what's this? I brought out the angel cards too because I thought, well, while I'm here, I may as well pull out some angel cards on it and just see what they want to bring in. And I'm noticing on the bottom of the deck here that it is 8 of Wands, the Huiel, the great and exalted God. Grandeur makes one passionate toward God. Yeah, there's some kind of communication coming in here from spirit. Maybe it has something to do with our whole like Kriya. Maybe actually these are like pieces that are coming together to sort of close the whole experience, because it's very traditional with the close of Panchakarma experience, that you bring in that beauty and you bring in the divine feminine. And this is what this was going to be for tonight, was to align with that, the goddess principle, to align with the divine feminine. And so it's interesting. I'm wondering if maybe, there's more to come in the Kriya, because we did have that additional mudra come in, and maybe this is part of like a closing ceremony for our journey together. So it wasn't meant to bring it in yet. I'll have to see what recorded. I'll have to see what I captured on record, because I'm really interested to see like what piece it got up to. And maybe it was just meant to record that piece, and maybe I'll record other pieces and it'll be like one big closing like ceremony to honor everybody's journey who went through this. So strange. I had something very strange happen with the internet 5 minutes ago. I can't even explain the weird. That was like, yeah, it was like something like totally bizarre out of nowhere. I've never experienced that with a streaming software. It was definitely at a pivotal point in what I was recording too. Like just got through casting the energy, calling in the space, it was like just completed that and was ready to dive into it. It was like, nope. So it's like, okay, I got the memo. It's like, all right, not yet, not yet. There must be other parts that want to come in. And it's kind of interesting because in a way I did feel a little bit, I'm like, am I rushing it a little bit? And there is kind of the thought in my mind. I'm like, I probably should really get my new altar set up, my spring altar, because I'm still rocking the winter altar. And it might be time to clean that up. Maybe they want a different setup going on in order to really call this energy in. And I can see that. Out with the old, got to clear out the old energy first. So I'm just trusting that. And I'm not going to push it, right? I'm not going to push the river. I'm going to receive the guidance and respect it. So, yeah, I mean, maybe I'll just pull a couple cards. Do any of you have anything you want to bring in? I see there's a couple people here. Any questions you've been having or anything, you need support on before I break for my couple of days off? Otherwise, I think I'm just going to get us a couple angel cards here and just see what they have to say. I mean, 11 and 11 is what came in. So it got, big angel energy forward. And I definitely called them in with the work I was going to be doing tonight. So I guess I'm going to just let them say what they have to say, since the bottom card on the deck was that 8 of Wands. Sounds like they want to bring in some kind of message. So angels, what do you want us to know? What is the memo you want us to receive? I have your I'm paying attention. You have my attention. It was a very strange experience, I'm still kind of like tripping out about it, just the way it happened. It was very unusual. I haven't had something happen on like that in a while, Um, there's something there. I don't know what it is. I'm really looking forward to watching the playback on what I recorded. I wonder if there's something that will be revealed to me in that. But do be on the lookout for this. I'm going to put something together with this, and maybe I just need to get more pieces of it. So I'm not going to question that. This is how you kind of have to just flow with the energy, right? And there's so many interesting things happening with time right now. Time is just really become very mutable, really mutable with that Saturn in Pisces. Saturn is father time, so it's really made things strange. It's got that kind of time hopping vibe, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so let's see here. What do you want us to know, angels? What guidance do you want us to have? You got my attention, okay? I'm listening. You got the floor. I came on here live without a plan, plan got disrupted. I got the memo on that, we have no control. We got to go with the flow. We got to just follow the path of synchronicity. Got to listen, tune in. So tuning in and just seeing, what do you want us to know? What guidance do you want to come through for us? Knight of Pentacles, Lehiel, the praiseworthy God, light of understanding, acquires knowledge and cures illness. Yeah, it's interesting because Knight of Pentacles is a slower moving energy, so maybe this wasn't meant to be rushed. Maybe this is something that needs more parts to come in. It's okay to take the time to really bring this forward. There's something about, what was being put together tonight, that there's going to be more understanding coming forward about the purpose it's to serve. Maybe pieces that need to come in and be integrated. Maybe it's something that'll bring a lot of healing, maybe there's some healing component that's missing from what I was going to bring in. So that's interesting. Okay, what do we need to know? What do we need to know, angels? What guidance do you have for us? What do we need to carry forward with us as we move through this weekend? What guidance did you want to bring on through? What do you want us to know, angels? What guidance do you have for us? Such a strange experience. I still feel a little tripped out by it, I'm all in that space too. I already like called in all the energies. So it's like, okay, I'm already riding that hedge. Maybe I'm just meant to, go and trip out and, stare up at the moon and just enjoy the vibe. Okay, we have Six of Pentacles in reverse. Eladia, the favorable god, divine grace, cures rage and pestilence, absolves the guilty. In reverse. I see that as like maybe the energy is just not in alignment for this right now. Maybe there's still some remnants that we need to do around, releasing some of our rage, some of our guilt. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. You can't really receive beauty. You can't really bring that in until you first do a little bit more clearing out. So that makes sense. That might be why things kind of got uprooted tonight. It's interesting. What can we do to help, release what's obstructing us from being able to receive this kind of healing work that I was going to bring in tonight? What do we need to do to help us release this rage so that we can open up to that softer feminine energy? And of course, we have tons of cards came out. So you've got the Hanged Man, patience, nutshell, the only God, desire for knowledge, protects from liars, evil, spells, and bad spirits. Ooh, okay. Let's see, Queen of Wands, Alemia, the hidden god, divine power, guards against mental troubles. All right. Seven of Pentacles, Nemamia, the lovely god, discernment, general prosperity, the deliverance of prisoners. Okay. I get this message here actually quite thoroughly. Okay, I'm understanding. The energy wasn't in alignment to bring this in, and it does have something to do with a hit I had, which is I was going a bit into some of the stuff I work with in regard to doing my alchemy work, into doing magic. And when I had the disruption in what I was bringing in, there was a part of me that was wondering if it was because I wasn't meant to share that with others because they might use it. They might use it in a way that it is not to be used. You know what I'm saying? That it could be used in a distorted sense. Sometimes certain your magic, certain things that you work with, you should keep them to yourself. Not all of your magic should be shared. Some can be, but maybe this is not something I'm supposed to share, or at least not supposed to share on this level, like public on YouTube. Maybe it's meant to be shared in a more intimate capacity, maybe with people who are actually like wanting to work that path, wanting to work the path of fairy. That makes sense. Because I could see if the energy came in and it wasn't the appropriate time, it's like it's this energy, hangman's like, wait, this guards against troubles, this guards against a distortion of what wants to come through. Protects from people, from liars, from evil spells, bad spirits, people who would take in the information, the knowledge, and use it in a negative way. Seven of Pentacles. Seven of Pentacles is all about growth. Okay. So that's very interesting. And then what do we got here? Strength, Hakamiya, the raising God, loyalty, delivery from those who seek to oppress brings victory. High Priestess, Elahia, God the eternal lasting, success, protection from magistrates. Queen of Pentacles, Mabahia, the eternal God, intellectual lucidity, provides consolation and compensations. Okay, I got the memo. Right, that's very interesting. So I think that brings through kind of an interesting message just for everybody, in working your path and what you learn and what you gain through working with your ancestors and tapping your roots and learning about your own magical lineage and what you have to give forward, and share in the world. There's this piece about, some things are meant to be just for you. Some things um, are very like sacred and personal to yourself. Some things, when shared, can be distorted. We've been talking a lot about spirit's rejection is spirit's protection. Yeah, exactly. There really is this piece. It's like some things, when it comes down to oral tradition, now, oh, this is very interesting. This is kind of taking an interesting segue. When it comes to oral tradition, how many times have we seen oral tradition distorted, right? Distorted and used as a means of oppression, used in an adverse way that, was not the original intention. How many times have words been twisted by liars and used in that, respect? So there is this piece about, sometimes, you get memos from spirit, sometimes you get directives from spirit, and especially when it comes in like that, like it came in with what I was working with tonight, where it was just like boom. Maybe it's like, yeah, maybe it was just meant to get the grounding method to come in, but everything else I was going to bring in, it's like, no, no, don't give that information. Interesting. And it's like that. You'll get guidance from your ancestors, or maybe you get guidance from your guides or your spirit or just your own intuition or something that, comes through for you. And not everything is meant to be shared. Sometimes that's what gives something power, is that it's like something very, personal and intimate. We've been bringing in some of these deeper layers too. And what we've been working through, we've been working with layers of intimacy and the power of intimacy and the power of vulnerability, to be able to be in that place where you're just so centered in that that divine feminine energy, that you can relax and you can let go and you can open and you can receive and you can be completely unguarded. But there's also the other aspect of, yes, that's true. That's true, because Hecate also came in, and Hecate is the keeper of the crossroads. And Hecate also has great associations with being able to journey through the shadow and to transmute. And so that's very interesting too, because there is this piece about not the right timing, that there might be some kind of like lower energies that need to be cleared. It might not be the right time for people to work with these things until they transmute that energy, because if we're not in the right space to receive something either, it can come through distorted, right? It can come through distorted. So it seems like it's a learning opportunity, right? And I'm thinking about the other aspect of the divine feminine, because often we only think of one aspect. You always hear about the beautiful, soft and tender and empowered and sensual, but it's all this very like kind of like exalted energy. But Hecate came in. And so there's this piece about, yeah, that's divine feminine, but there's also divine feminine that gets down and dirty. All right. There's also the wild, raw side of the divine feminine. There is the side of the divine feminine that knows rage. Okay. And knows how to move through rage in an exalted way, knows how to transform these behaviors. And then it brings me back to the beginning piece, something we've been working with since the beginning. A priestess makes all things sound, right? And thoughts are things that carry the weight of responsibility. So if that's where the collective is at right now, there was an interruption in what I was putting together, because there's this piece about, no, no, it's not the right timing. This is not the right timing, because the head isn't in the right space. We're protecting against mental troubles. We're protecting against this being distorted from it funneling through deception or funneling through people who would take this information and they would use it in a negative way. There's like more of a need for transmutation first. Very interesting. And it's also that piece too about honoring the wisdom of that kind of wild, raw, like the dark goddess, that aspect of the divine feminine, that some things are meant to be kept secret, right? The high priestess knows what must be kept secret. The high priestess knows hidden knowledge, okay? And so that implies that a priestess doesn't necessarily reveal all, and that there's timing to such things. And maybe this also applies to just the collective and like areas where you may have questions right now, where you are still kind of fumbling through the dark, or you are trying to understand certain shadow aspects and how they're playing out in your life and how to integrate those parts of you. Maybe you are still grappling with some of this, working through some of this. And it's this piece about, there's something that comes through that journey of fumbling around in the dark, not having all the answers, that is very powerful. We can't bypass that. Yeah, I really see this as about there's still past energy that needs to be cleared. There's still this energy that needs to be cleared, that needs to be transmuted, that the high priestess needs to work on by integrating, the shadow aspects to come to a place of clarity before bringing this in. Very interesting. All about timing. And I also feel like it's layers, because I'm just looking at that piece of how we've been having a Kriya revealed to us, step by step. We've been having this Kriya outline for us, and maybe we are being given a divine feminine Kriya. Very interesting. That just came in. Very interesting. Okay, I'm going to let it unfold. I'm going to let it unfold. I'm going to see if there's anything else just to cut the deck energy. Okay, what's the takeaway message, angels? Very interesting. Very interesting. It sounds like there's this need to like kind of look at how we're running our energy a little bit more, to consider that divine timing, really listening and feeling out if it feels right, to do something, trusting our intuition on that. There was the piece that when I went to go and record it, I was like, I don't know, is it the right time for me to do this? And I kind of had that question, but I wanted to follow through, I wanted to be of my word, and I wanted to show up for live. So I followed through. And maybe that's the piece right there, is just you have to trust, what feels right. You have to trust the energy. If it didn't feel right, it didn't feel right, It's sort of like the angels took the wheel. They put a halt to it. All right, let's go ahead and just do a cut of the deck here and see if there's any other input they want to give. 8 of Cups. Yep. Hail, God, the pleasure of man's children. Transformation gives consolation in adversity. 8 of Cups. Yeah, 8 of Cups. There's still something to walk away from. There's still something more to learn. There's still more alignment that needs to happen before we bring in this work. And I have a feeling maybe this is not supposed to come in until the very end. And maybe it has to wait until we've also brought in the final, like the soul retrieval pieces, all of that. That makes sense. I could see that. I could see that. I might have jumped the gun. Might have jumped the gun a bit. I can't help it. I got a lot of fire in my chart, man. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I'm like, let's just go for it. Let's just make it happen. So um that's about it for tonight. I pretty much just wanted to drop in and just see if y'all needed any support, or if there was anything you wanted to bring in and to explain why this video was not going to be coming out tonight. I was going to share something on social media today from an ancestor, and I decided it was not for that. It was just for me. Your message affirms this for sure. Oh, see, now that's very interesting because I've had some things like that happen before, and I often like to have discussions about stuff like that. Like, oh, I had this dream, it's like tripping me out. Like, I like to get other people's perspectives, things like that. And I like to have those kind of conversations. I really enjoy it. But yeah, I've had a few dreams where I was actually even instructed in the dream where it's like, this is not to be shared. You're not to share this. And I knew that it was just for me. And I had to like, okay. Sometimes things come through like that. And if you do get a nudge from spirit on that, it's maybe something that doesn't make sense at the present time, but it will make sense later. I know that, and I know it's going to make sense later just because it stopped at 11:11, and just though there's no rational explanation for what happened. There just isn't. There's no rational explanation for what happened. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever encountered. So there's something there. There's something there, but it seems like what's really coming through is it's not the time for it. It's not the time to put that out in the collective. Maybe I'm not supposed to put all of that out to the collective. Maybe there's only parts of that I'm supposed to put out there. But whenever I get a memo like that, I don't ignore it. I don't ignore it. Thank you, dear heart, sending my phone number in this box plus money for reading and some. Oh, thank you so much. Well, I look forward to reading for you. I look forward to doing another read for you and dropping in. And that's excellent. Thank you so much. I've been loving all the self-care stuff. It's been so good. Everything just feels so decadent, and I'm really enjoying it. So I appreciate that support for my own healing process very much. And yeah, interesting that you had that experience. Interesting. Maybe that is the message. Maybe that's what needed to come through. That's what needed to come through tonight. That's what needed to come through tonight. That was the message that some things are just for you. Some things are special and sacred and just for you. And maybe that's a different kind of intimacy. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's an intimacy between you and spirit. That's very, very interesting. And I never would have thought of it that way, but very interesting. It's almost like spirits wanting to enter into a deeper intimacy. Is that correct? Is that what we're getting here? Is spirit wanting to enter into a deeper intimacy? Is spirit wanting us to enter into a deeper intimacy? That's almost like activating the lever. That's very much oh, that's the path of, what do they call that? It's when you relate to divinity as the love, like as your mirror, as the love. What is it called? Oh my goodness. There's a specific name for it in yoga. There's a specific name for it, and it's eluding me in this moment. It's not agape. Oh my goodness. That's very interesting. I feel like that's the message. I feel like, okay. Maybe it's that divine masculine is wanting the feminine to come into deeper intimacy. Oh, yes, that's what it is. Wheel of Fortune, Metatron. Yes, that's like elevating the energy, aligning the energy. That's what Metatron does. Metatron like alchemizes the energy. It harmonizes. He harmonizes the energy. Wheel of Fortune, Metatron, the recording angel, advancement and progress, teaches, guides, and records events in the book of life. Yeah, so I think that we're being taught a little alchemy here in this regard. And it feels like that's what's coming through. It's almost like wanting to enter into a deeper intimacy, you to enter into a deeper intimacy with spirit. And that means that some things are just between you and spirit. Some things are just meant to be held in that space. And there's a special kind of power in that. And there's a special kind of beauty in that too, right? When you have that kind of like real intimate connection. with spirit, with your higher consciousness, higher awareness. Very interesting. Okay. Well, very interesting evening. Wasn't what I was expecting, but it is beautiful, isn't it? It is beautiful. Things don't always have to go according to plans. Sometimes they're meant to come down just the way they are. And maybe that's also a clue about those pieces that were coming in about the anger. It's like, okay, well, you want this beauty, but, the beauty can't be birthed into being until it first is, really arrived at within the self. And there has to be a harmonization in order for that to happen, which means balancing out those masculine, feminine polarities. So you can have that avenue, to bring that creative force through. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting that piece that came in about the anger, the rage, and so if there is this firewall, if there still is this trapped fire that needs to be released, if there's still this anger or this sense of injustice, then that's going to block the opening for the flowering to happen. It's interesting that all this flower stuff came through. And I prepared the candle. I got the candle already like anointed with vanilla and rose oils, and I rolled it in crushed rose. And I wrote a intention on it. I carved an intention into it. It says, "May the beauty I seek in the world first be found within me, radiate through me, and be reflected all around me." So that's interesting. May it first be found within me. And it's like awakening the beauty within first. And there's something about this entering into that place of intimacy where maybe you can surrender. You can give yourself over to the masculine within to feel held in that space, really opening. There's something happening here. It's all revolving around these energies, working with that like alpha, the omega, harmonizing, coming to that conjuncto point. It's really wild. And it probably has that tone just because of what's going on with the nodes of destiny and the fact that we're going to have that, North Node Aries, South Node Libra. I mean, that is the mirror. And it's also, Libra's rules over relationships. So that is that point, of the merging of the two, the balancing of the two. Very interesting that it seems like this is happening first on the internal level. There's still some harmonizing we have to do. But I like that. I've never really considered that. And it's very interesting because I've never related to spirit in that way. I've never related to the divine in that way as lover. I haven't. That would be brand new for me. I don't know a lot about that. That's not how I've related to it. So that's something interesting for me to explore. And now I'm really like, okay, yeah, maybe I was ready to go through it that tonight. I want to sit with that a bit. And I think that's something interesting to sit with and hold. It's kind of juicy, right? Like you can go really down a rabbit hole with that one. So I feel like that's the message that wanted to come in, just to hold space this weekend for that. What does it mean to enter into a space of intimacy with your soul? What does it mean to have intimacy when it comes to your spirituality? How you connect with your sources of spiritual nourishment? What does that look like to you? What does that feel like to you? What does that mean to you? And I think I'm just going to leave y'all off with that. And yeah, I'll see you all on Tuesday and we'll see what else happens. Who knows what other curveballs will come. I had an experience with a spirit lover in 2018 for many months. I thought it was a particular man. I still don't know which it was. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was just your kundalini. Maybe it was your own energy. Maybe that was the manifestation of your own inner masculine, the divine masculine. Especially with Kundalini, Kundalini has different stages of uncoiling. First uncoiling of Kundalini. Yeah, I mean, for real, because it's interesting because with the first uncoiling of the Kundalini energy, it's all upper channel stuff. It's very upward motion. It's like the energy comes up and it's very expansive, right? It takes you into the outer limits. It like really blasts open the crown. It's like it clears the channel. And it's a very expansive experience, and it takes you into this place that's very much about that like higher vibration of love, that one consciousness kind of love. So it's almost like the first uncoiling of Kundalini takes you into like the outer realms, like it takes you into the ether air energy, right? It's very like expansive. But what's different is the like next uncoiling, because it happens in layers, and the second uncoiling is really like it's all down in the root. It's all down in the root. And then you have to deal with the seedies. You have to deal with the powers, that comes with that can tempt you to stay stuck there. Because when you go through the second uncoiling with it all being down there at the root, it's highly sexual and it's very pleasurable. But the thing is you're not meant to get attached to that. Although people do struggle with that and they want to hold the energy there, but that can actually be not the best thing for your chakra system. Like you need to keep the energy flowing. You need to keep the energy flowing so you don't develop, imbalance, that can actually really throw off your sense of stability if you keep it down there. Okay. So it's about really working with the prana, working with the breath, working with the focus, keeping the eye on ajna. Okay. Because then the second uncoiling really activates your ability to be able to raise that energy up, and you direct it out through the third eye, and it becomes a point of manifestation, working with that creative energy within that kundalini energy for manifestation purposes. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, and we can create manifestations. We can create manifestations of energy. It's amazing what the human brain can do. That's the other thing is, it's like I kind of touched on that at one point, how I was talking about like, your thoughts are things. Your thoughts absolutely can morph reality. They can. If you're in a place where you're tapped into your consciousness in such a way that you're aligning your feeling and your focus, and you're really embodying the energy, you can call things into being. And that's how sometimes I feel like people that stay in the shadow too long, that focus too much on the heaviness, that focus too much on the darkness, it's almost like they can create an entity attachment, but the entity is their sorrow, or their entity is their resentment, or their entity. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like those emotions, those qualities can take on like a manifestation where it feels like it's something outside of yourself, but it's actually not. It's part of you. And it's almost like a form of disassociation. It's more comfortable to perhaps deal with it. If you view it as something outside of yourself, then it's something that you created. So if it can apply with a shadow, and absolutely, I've seen that happen. Like that's kind of what a crossed condition is. It's like somebody focusing on a negativity so much, or focusing on a certain kind of heavy perspective or energy too much, that it becomes like an actual force, an actual thing that has impact. But that's not always the case. That's not always the case. It just depends. It depends. It can happen though. So if it can happen with the shadow, it can happen with, you know, it can happen with the light too. You can call things into being. And, that definitely can be also working with your own sensual energy. It can be working with Kundalini. But the thing is, though, is that those are the seedies. Those are traps. You're supposed to transcend them. Supposed to transcend them. And I know about that. I know about that dance because I've had a couple Kundalini uncoiling experiences. And the second one, it was really hard. It was really hard to elevate the energy, but I've gotten to the point where I'm able to do that now, where I don't get stuck there because it does throw you out of balance, and you're not meant to stay trapped there. The energy is meant to rise. It's supposed to activate the upper channels, and it's so you can, manifest things into being. Hmm, I don't know. I wouldn't take on any of that, really. I mean, it's what you believe. If you believe that, then it can be that way. If you believe that Scorpio moons come with spirit attachment, then that's going to be true for you. You know what I'm saying? Because we're the creators of our realities. So it's all about what we believe and what we invest in, with our focus or how we view things, that creates a manifestation. So if you believe that, then that will be so. Absolutely. You know, I'm coming out of unstuck with this astrology and the clearing we are doing. I don't believe it anymore. Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's just really about understanding that it's all one energy, and we get to choose how we focus our awareness and how that impacts our experience. So, this is why, we have different spiritual beliefs, right? And what's very true for one person believes in God, and they relate to spirit in that way. And for them, that's true. And everything about their experience and them moving through life will confirm their belief. It will absolutely 100% support their belief. And why is that? Because that's where their focus is, that's where they're fixated, that's where they place their attention, and their heart is on board with it, their feeling is on board with it. They're 100% in, and that's what alchemy is, when you align with your thoughts, your mind, your body, and spirit, when they're all on the same page, that creates your reality, you know so if that's what you believe, that's what you believe. That's why another person can be like, no, for me, I relate to it as goddess. And it's very much true for them. And everything that occurs in their life and the experiences they have support that belief. Our beliefs have more power than people give them credit, and we have to sometimes start to do this unraveling process where we question our beliefs. Why do we have our beliefs? Are beliefs stemming from a place of our own inner knowing? Are they stemming from a place of what we've intuitively arrived at? Are they stemming from a place of what our personal truth is that we embody? Or are we parroting beliefs? Are we taking on beliefs because somebody said that that was true, but is it really true? Or is it just true for that person? You know? I think we're all in a big unraveling process with that too. A lot of people are questioning their beliefs. A lot of people are expanding their consciousness. Of course, we're going to have more of that with the dawning of the age of Aquarius. We're moving into expansion. We're looking at things in new ways. Structures are kind of falling away. So things are more fluid, more pliable, more mutable. It's a really interesting time. You know, I always think it's best to just learn, what the truth is for yourself. It's interesting because it's bringing up this whole thing that happened. It's bringing up a really interesting conversation because when I grew up in, a very strict Christian religion. Okay. And my whole upbringing, I was told that all these horrible things would happen to me. And there was a lot of focus on kind of the real like dark side I noticed in the religion I grew up in. Okay. There was just so much focus on, if you do this, you're going to be demonized, and it's just all this fear. There was just so much fear. And I have to be really honest, I was terrified a lot as a child because there was just so much fear about, these horrible things happening to you if you were to sin. And all these punishments. And it just, I always felt just scared all the time. But I also saw things that didn't make sense to me. So, as much as I felt fear, at the same time, I had a lot of questions, and I was an extremely inquisitive child. And I would bring up legitimate questions in Bible study and things of this nature. And nobody ever had a good answer for me. And it always got me in trouble. It always got me in trouble. So I always questioned from the beginning. And I always felt drawn to certain things, but I was told that the things that was drawn to just naturally that spoke to me, that somehow those things were not okay. That if I were to engage in these things, then that would mean that I was evil. You know what I'm saying? So that really threw me in a place of questioning and confusion within myself, because I felt like, wait a minute, but how can this be wrong? Because this feels right in my heart. It feels right in my soul. And when I ask for answers why it's wrong, and I bring up holes and kind of what you're presenting to me with this doctrine, you don't have any answers for me. It's just kind of like regurgitating this information, which what's really ironic, if anybody does any kind of like theological study, they will really learn that our grasp of the Bible is way off anyway, because of the language it was written in, and there's gaps in understanding how certain things are actually intended in the translation. I mean, I've always studied all kinds of different routes of um, spiritual belief. It's something that I find fascinating. I find interesting. I want to know. I've always wanted to know more, and was open to exploring. And I've always, being a very strong Libran, I've always wanted to know the truth, right? And the truth, it's kind of one of those pursuits that it's like, we'll never really know. We never really can know the truth. And anybody who says they know the absolute truth is full of it, because we only know what feels true for us. And as much as something feels true for us, somebody who holds an opposing belief or relates to spirituality in a different way, it's every bit as true for them. Does that make their truth wrong? No. You know. So we're all just kind of fumbling around in the dark, and we're trying to make sense of this thing called life. And we do have awakening moments, and we do have guidance that comes in. And there is this energy that seems to be coursing through all, but everybody relates to it in a different way. So I think that we don't give belief enough credit for how much it can influence our experiences, how we translate things. I always get curious with unusual experiences like the one that you brought in. I always get curious, like, well, what could that be? That's like, those are the types of things that send me down the rabbit hole. You know what I'm saying? Like, my Christian upbringing would tell me, well, that's an evil experience, and I'm saying this is something to be feared and this is something bad. But then some of my other explorations and other traditions would tell me something quite different, So it's interesting place of exploration. And I think in the end, it really comes to this position of us questioning our beliefs. Where do they come from? Are they sourced from within, or are they sourced from without? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's true. But there's a lot of fear. There's a lot that's based on fear. And a lot of that has to do, again, with mistranslation, for real, mistranslation. Um, and partially because we have to remember that when Christianity came in, there were a lot of other people's beliefs and a lot of other cultures' beliefs that were stripped of them. And there was a big push for conversion, and people were punished and people were tortured for having different beliefs. And we've been talking about ancestors and, looking at the roots of things, and, it applies spiritually too. So there's all of this. There's a lot to, understand and unpack and unravel. And that's why, I have BroadCoven. It doesn't matter to me what anybody believes spiritually. I support people arriving at their own personal truth. I support people listening to their own hearts and following their soul's directives. I do not believe in gurus. Gee, you are you. I don't believe there's anybody who has all the answers. I believe that you're the one who has the direct access to that higher wisdom, that higher guidance. I believe that it's all about, how you connect to source, and what is source for you. That's something that's a matter of personal discovery. And sometimes to really get tapped into that, it's about unraveling a lot of programming. It's about unraveling what people told you your source was, and rather than letting you really discover it for yourself. I did go through a phase though in my life because I have such curiosity. Okay. And because I wanted to know the truth, all right, I was told, okay, I grew up in a Christian religion that told me that if I were to work with tarot cards, that was evil, that it would bring evil upon me. Okay. I was told that, you know, it wasn't right to light a candle and, hold an intention, that's spell work. And yet it's very interesting how often can you go into a church and light a candle, and even tithe and pay some money to light that candle, to hold your intention, um, and so I kind of had this interesting experience where I was like, okay, well, I'm a bit of a daredevil, right? And my hunger for truth. And even though I was scared, I was like, well, I was told if I would do these things, that bad things would happen to me and that it was evil. So I'm going to see if that's really true. It's kind of like there's only one way to find out. I can either just blindly believe what these people are telling me, or I can actually find out for myself. So I took up that pretty early on in my life. I always had questions. I was always inquisitive. I always pushed the envelope. I've always been hungry for the truth. I always wanted to have an explanation why we believe certain things. And it got me into trouble a lot. It would get me into trouble quite a bit, but it's just my nature. It's who I am. And so I started doing some of these things that I was told. Horrible things would happen to me, really bad things would happen to me. It would mean I was evil. And you have to understand that from the time I was a really little girl, I already had the clairs. I already had all the clairs. I already had mediumship activated in me. So it made it very hard for me growing up in that kind of very rigid, constrictive, religious upbringing. Okay. Because I felt like I was evil. I felt like something was wrong with me. Like, what is wrong with me? And it made me have so much fear around opening up to my gifts. It made me have so much fear around having the sight. It made me have so much fear around accepting my gifts and mediumship. Um, and it caused me a lot of issues, and I struggled for a long time because of it. And it took a lot of unraveling. But one of the ways I started unraveling things is I started doing these things. I started reading tarot. I started, um, you know, doing candle workings, and I just wanted to see, okay, there's only one way to find out. Yeah, it's a risk, but let's see. And what I found was, no, actually, I feel really empowered. And actually, I feel a great sense of peace. And actually, I feel a lot more connected to my heart and a lot more connected to my soul than I ever did before. And it was actually a really beautiful experience that healed me from the fear. It healed me from the fear. And so everybody's journey is different. And I recognize that some people have been saved by Christianity. They have. They have. Regardless of, how some people on pagan paths want to put them down and say that, all Christians are the same. That's not true. And that's not fair. You know, you don't want a label slapped on you. You know, there has to be room for everybody to have their perspectives, you know, their perspectives. And there's a reason why they were drawn to that path, you know, and not everybody distorts truth, you know, not everybody twists and turns, you know, spirituality to support some agenda. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah, it takes a long time to unravel it. And it's interesting. There's still, you know, every now and then I'll come up against something, you know, in recent years, but I've really kind of gotten beyond that when I made peace with my roots, because this is an interesting piece for, I know there's people out there that are like me that are on more like pagan paths that have, you know, the same kind of background I have. And I've done a ton of unraveling around it, and I'm really at peace with it. But it was interesting. There came this point when I really recognized that part of me really honoring my ancestral lineage and really stepping into my empowerment on my path spiritually meant not disregarding that aspect of my roots. And so that's why, you know, I do work with Psalms sometimes in my work, and that's why I do work with angels, okay? Because angels are something that always, you know, spoke to me, but I had such a strong association in my mind with them around the fear and everything else that came with my Christian upbringing that I had stopped working with that energy for a while. And then back at the tail end of 2009, I had angel energy come forward. Like, I mean, it's just like it grabbed me by the head and said, look here, you know, you need to connect with us. And it was weird for me because at that point I was already very well on, you know, my pagan path. I was already very well into working with the craft. I'd already initiated onto the third road in the fairy tradition. And so I was like, angels? Really? But it ended up being really healing for me. And then I was able to like grok the beauty of those roots that I was raised with. And it was through that I had this real kind of integration of what used to be the shadow for me. And it actually gave me a lot of healing, gave me a lot of healing. And now I can take those beautiful parts and I can take those parables and I can take the symbolism and I can weave those psalms when I'm doing my candle work, you know. I can bring that in, and it brings me to this place of really feeling integrated, you know, not divided anymore. It doesn't have to be either or. And from that point, it just really expanded my view. It's like, why does it have to be just one thing? Why can't it be all? You know, why can't I take the best of each, you know, spiritual path that really speaks to me? And that's the way that I enter into that intimate connection with my spirituality, because I'm letting the feeling inside of me, I'm letting my own intuition, I'm letting my heart gravitate toward those things that resonate with the love inside of me. You know what I'm saying? Wow, what a rabbit hole. This was an accurate, you know, I put that rabbit hole with the rabbit. For the title of this drop-in zone. Talk about a drop-in. Look at where this went. It went on a total tangent. I worked with all of it too. I was grabbed by angels in 2017 and then aliens in 2018. I've had an interesting experience. I don't know what to call it, but I had an interesting experience. I've shared it with people. I've shared it with some people. They say, "Oh, that sounds like an alien experience." It could be. I read the communion, and when I read the communion, it kind of like scared the crap out of me because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I totally had like the same type of experience." What he described in that book really tripped me out. And I mean, I don't doubt there's other life forms. I think it's kind of arrogant for human beings to believe we're the only life form. We're the only intelligent life form if in a vast multiverse that we just know just like just the tiniest like pin pin tip of. We think that we are the only intelligent life form, and that intelligence is highly debatable. If you look about how we're running the show down here, it's kind of funny, right? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I don't doubt. I don't doubt. And there's a lot of evidence out there that there is. And there's a lot of, sealed documents that have been released, that support that, you know. So it's interesting. But yeah, it's an interesting wild world out there, and we're all just trying to figure it out. But I like the idea of having a space where we can come in and, on a Saturday night or whatever, we can just drop in and, shoot the shit and talk about really weird out there stuff and our perspectives and, have everybody feel comfortable being in that space. Because what I often don't like about spaces around spirituality is like people get too dogmatic, they get so like zoned into their own little reality tunnel and how they view the world that everybody in this space, yeah, I'll support you. Yeah, you can come and take part in this. You can be part of this community, but only if you see things exactly as me. And I think that that's not really supportive, and that's not really what we need. We need inclusivity, it needs to be okay for people to just be who they are, to come and show up as they are and not feel like they have to fit into any kind of mold. Can we just break the mold? Can we get out of this us versus them consciousness? Can we get away from the dichotomy? Can we instead focus on points of connection and unification? Like, that's where it's at. That's what the world needs to heal. We need to stop feeling like we have all the answers. We know everything. Like, human beings are so arrogant, they're so full of themselves. They think they know everything. They're so damn entitled and they're so completely selfish most of the time. And what do we know? If you think you know, you really don't know. Like, you are more lost than you think, man. If you think you know the answers and you got this life figured out, you do not know. You do not know. All you can do is know your personal experience, and that's your truth. But that's still a little T truth. It's not the big T truth. And the big T truth will always remain a mystery. And isn't that interesting? It's kind of coming full circle because the lesson this week was all about beauty. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful. The mystery is beautiful, right? We always want to know. We always want to have control. We always want to have it all figured out. We want to have all the answers. People ignore how beautiful the mystery is. There's something about that, the mystery, the things that you can't explain, the things you'll never possibly have answers for, and just to be in that space of mystery. Mystery is also potential, it's possibility. And it's a realm of exploration and imagination. Not enough people appreciate that, So I think that I'm going to drop off now. We went down quite a rabbit hole. Thanks for dropping in and having a trippy conversation with me. And yeah, everybody's welcome here. Everybody's welcome here. I don't care if you're an atheist. I don't care if you are, practicing root work. I don't care if you are a Christian. I don't care if you're a New Ager. I don't care if you walk the left-hand path. I don't care what path you're walking. Whatever path you're walking, you're welcome here. I welcome everybody. We can all learn from each other if we can enter into a space of holding space in a respectful manner, and exploring together. And then we might realize once we open up those dialogues and we're willing to move into those kind of uncomfortable places, we realize, you know what? We're not so different after all. And that's a beautiful thing. All right, y'all. Have a good night. And I'll see you on Tuesday. Just let all that simmer over the next few days. Take care.